I'm hoping that this might be the last video that I make. I'm sure that it probably won't. The reason I'm sure of that is because every time I do anything that the person controlling these series of existential crimes, the lesser entity that is doing this, he tries to punish me for everything that I do to push against the crimes that he's committing. And so I mentioned in either the last video or the one before that, that I had debated whether or not to make that video at all, because I know that in a place where people have the right to exist, in the place where they can do something about that, you know, anywhere that has people with the right to exist who can do things about it, you tell them once that existential crime is being committed, it's obviously committed here. I mean, there's the mountains of evidence that prove it. Is, you know, that there's no debate about whether or not it's existential crime or not. When you tell people that there's a problem this gigantic and huge, they look, they will see it immediately, and they fix it. I should only have to say things once, and frankly, that's not even my job. Every creator responsible for this is responsible for making sure that none of these existential crimes carried out so sociopathically and horribly have been committed. And I know that this asshole that runs this dimension, that causes me suffering, that tries to torment me and condition me away from telling the truth, every time that I point these things out, he'll want to go back and forth because he wants to, again, try to condition me away from telling the truth about the crimes of existence he's committing. Now, he wants to pretend also that he's a retard, so he pretends like there's no conscious thought behind these crimes that he's committing. But that make-believe is for, apparently, entities that happen to be nearby that aren't pieces of shit. Because it's what has actually been done to me, and I've said this over and over again, and this is the context in which this is taking place, and the context in which the outcome of these crimes is based on. These are existential crimes, and the outcome of this is based on the crimes that are actually committed, obviously, right? Well, the crimes that these assholes are committing, they're trying to cover up in every dimension, and this is why the context is so important. This is why the creator of this dimension, the assholes who control it, do literally anything to try to pretend that the context is something else. They'll do anything. They'll hide behind anyone. They'll play let's pretend. They'll be nasty, slimy, shitty, retard, to do anything to continue being child molesters conducting crimes of existence for a child molester. This is not my opinion. This is a statement of fact about existential crimes being committed against me. This is the context. Now, I've tried to explain to the person conducting these crimes against me, and everyone responsible for them, because it doesn't matter if they're too far away to hear, if they're plugging their ears, or if they're retarded. It doesn't matter what they're doing. These are crimes of existence and creation, and so it doesn't matter if they're just torturing my existence because they're too stupid to exist or to create anything. Because the answer to that is obvious. I've already told you. The answer to that is your existence is worth less than mine. In effect, in action, in outcome, existentially. And so is your creator's. This is the issue. This is the context. And so the person who created this dimension paints this context in a ridiculous sense. If you know anything about, you don't even really need to know anything about other places where people exist that aren't pieces of shit. You know, like actual existence and creation that should exist, you know? You can just have enough intelligence to understand these things, you know. If you have even the barest knowledge or sense within you, then you can look around and say, oh, this place is painted as some retard dimension where everything eats each other and shits each other out and slowly gets degraded and devolved and causes suffering, and there's rape and torture and mutilation and child molesters and psychopathic genocide, and and it just fell out of the sky, and there's nobody there, and there's nothing. It's just you. The problem's you. If you have a problem with it, you should stop whining. It's to believe that this is how it's presented is stupid. And so the person who created this dimension literally erased me as a person, so he could be a child molester. This is the context. Because you have to be fucking stupid. First off, to be doing what he's doing. That's the dumbest shit there ever could possibly be. And the next dumbest thing is to go along with what he's doing. This is the context of the actual crimes that are being committed here. And again, anywhere, if I told this to anybody with the right to exist, they would stop it immediately. The proof is all around you. It's irrefutable. And I've literally put hours of explanations on YouTube explaining this. Again, I know that YouTube is a venue that is not actually making it to other entities that have the right to exist as far as broadcasting goes. But I do know that there are greater entities, far greater than every shitbag that's ever made these crimes come about. And they can see what you're doing. Even if your little child molester conducting these crimes really wants to make believe because someone told him to be a piece of shit children's dildo. A disgusting and despicable thing that has no right to exist, that can, will, and should be used to anal rape its creator. That's a fact. That's not my opinion. This is a statement of fact. This is the context. Now, one of these things that the shitbag conducting these crimes loves to do, again, I'm telling you this for the context, so you understand the outcome from this. One of the things the shitbag conducting these crimes against me loves to do is he tries to cause me suffering anytime I point out the truth. This truth is, he's committing existential and creational crimes against me. He has no right to exist. He's doing so with consciousness and cognizance, and therefore autonomy. He lies about that, because he's too big of a pussy to admit what he's doing. And he's created an entire dimension where he make-believes that he is holy and a omnipotent deity. And a lot of times, in multiple religions in this world, which he's responsible for, he claims he's the only creator and the only greater entity that has ever existed anywhere. And that he can do anything that he wants because it's all of existence without exception, without limit. It's just a child molester's playground. But it's so obviously ridiculous that he won't even say that out loud. And there's a couple of different reasons for this. Well, let me tell you a couple other things that he does, and then I'll tell you the reason will be obvious. The reason basically being, you'll stand in front of greater entities someday, and they'll respond to this. And so the person that's committing these crimes, one of the things that he does is he hides like a bitch behind everything. He hides like a bitch behind every single aspect of this dimension. He hides like a bitch behind monkeys that he uses to commit crimes. And when you confront him with it, he hides like a bitch behind imaginary bullshit and plays let's pretend about it. So if I nail him too hard on something like this, and he has enough consciousness to understand that he is a parasite, a child molester, he has no right to exist. He is a nasty, cowardly piece of shit doing something really genuinely fucked up to an innocent. He has enough consciousness to understand that, and so what he does is the equivalent of a slimy, shitty little human child throwing a nasty tantrum against somebody he's trapped in a hole like a sociopathic child molester. That is an objective statement of truth. He throws little pussy tantrums and tries to cause me to suffer for saying, you have butchered my entire existence. You have never had any justification. You know that. You're covering it up. You failed in that. You're too big of a pussy to admit that. You're too big of a pussy to admit you're committing crimes as you're committing them, and you're such a coward, so afraid to feel like what you are while you're doing it. You're not just to pay consequences for the actual crimes you're committing, which is what you actually owe, existentially. You're such a pussy, you can't even feel like what you are while you do it, or even admit it without feeling it. You are too big of a coward pussy, existentially speaking, irrefutably, creationally, in every single dimension there ever has been, and every single dimension there ever will be. You are too big of a coward pussy to admit what you're doing as you're doing it, with intelligence, autonomy, and ability. This is the context. Now let me tell you about some of the ways that that retard does this. Okay? Again, I know that he's going to try to suppress this, but I also know that he has betters that are watching the whole fucking thing. He wants to play make-believe they don't exist. That he's more clever than anything that's ever existed. Of course, he would never say it out loud because he knows he'll eventually stand in front of primary entities. And they'll ask him some fucking questions about it. Won't they, pussy? Some of the things he does is he, like I said, tries to cause as much suffering in me every time I nail him between the eyes with a fact that's very important. Some of the things he's too big of a limp-wristed pussy to even attempt doing that. Like when I tell you, you're causing consequences for other people's creations. Creators will respond to that with wrath. And that's one of the things I've found that shuts his little cock holster. His vagina of a mouth. Because he knows that when he stands in front of greater entities, the slimy chicken shit that he sneers at me all the time isn't going to touch his fucking face. He's too big of a pussy to even have a conversation about what he's doing with me in this state. He will still be a pussy when everything with the right to exist gets their hands on him. This is the context. And so this coward pussy threatens me often. All these threats are ridiculous. They fall flat on their retard, coward, bitch face. Because he knows that if he followed through on it, here's how that would happen. If he stood in front of me, I could rightly, in fact, I would probably be existentially obligated to break his fucking nose. To do anything I could to stop him from doing what he's doing. Genuinely. As best I could figure out how. And then his lineage of creation, every one of his creators and sources of existence and creation, responsible for him, everything without limitation, responsible for every single bit of this, would pay me in outrageously, offensively exorbitant ways for me carrying out justice that they should have carried out in their comfortable, coddled little pussy positions as they cause me suffering like this. And then what would happen is if you defended yourself, if this asshole committing these crimes defended himself, this is in the case there are actual innocents he would show it to. That's who I'm speaking to, or about, is this asshole committing these existential crimes. And if he defended himself when I did anything to him that I could, he would be perverting justice, committing another existential crime, putting an existence with no right to exist over mine as if he is defending himself or surviving or some other ridiculous excuse other than he's too big of a pussy to pay the cost of his own actions. Somebody has to physically, anything, spiritually, someone has to stop him by any means. And they will eventually. He has no right to resist that. And so what he's chosen to do is hide like a bitch and play make-believe about it. That's a statement of fact. Now, I will make one caveat. It might not be him who chose that. He is a children's dildo. He's a disgusting tool created by a child molester who didn't want to get shit on his hands. And as such, he's the most despicable thing that's ever existed in any lineage of existence and creation involved in this. And will be forever. Totally broken, beaten, and destroyed is flat on your back, with your eyes closed. Broken even further is on your face, with your ass up, presenting your butthole to anything and everything. Broken even worse than that is being a child molester's willing tool with intelligence, ability, and autonomy. And that is the child molester conducting these crimes. That is the context. Now let me hammer that home. What everyone guilty of this is doing, including every ultimate source of existence and creation involved in any fucking way whatsoever, is they are causing some slimy child molesting pussy objectively contemptible, created into that, deciding to commit these crimes. Obviously somebody who's never had the right to exist as a person or anything that even looks like one. And that pussy is putting his little pussy feelings over my entire existence by torturing and tormenting and fucking with me in every which way that he can, internally and externally, for telling him that he's committing terrible crimes against me that he should stop. He is essentially, existentially saying, setting existential parameters of justice. It says his little pussy feelings are so much more important than the people he's ripping and raping apart. That he should torture and torment them for saying you're committing crimes and you should stop. In context, your ultimate source of creation genuinely is lower than me. His entire existence is stolen until he pays exactly what he owes, and his credit's no good. A 6-year-old retard could understand that. You're not, oh, I'll butcher your soul and later I'll get around to... No, that's not how it works. No matter how many retards you hide behind. Objectively speaking, your ultimate source of creation is less than me. My feelings are more significant than his pussy existence. That is a statement of existential truth. Undeniably. And so what will be done is what? Because him being put below me is not wrongful. We're talking a primary entity here, whole and complete in every dimension. What he does existentially, committing existential crimes, that's what he is existentially. So when consequences are brought against his entirety, not some part of him, not some little retard he creates to be tortured, him in his entirety, all of him, everywhere, absolutely, positively. He won't just be subjugated to me in the same way. He'll be subjugated to something that doesn't have the right to exist, far below this in every way. This is a statement of existential truth, and this is why the creator of this dimension hides like a pussy behind retards, who all try to make believe and pussy away all the consequences of the crimes. And they've failed, because it is genuinely a stupid thing to do. And so you genuinely, really, chose somebody stupid to do it with. Now that somebody stupid genuinely represents every single person, place, and thing in every lineage of existence and creation guilty of this in any way. Existentially. That is your existential representative. And you claiming it's anything else is like you walking up to a child molesting Catholic priest and saying, you fucking child molester, you son of a bitch. You need to stop what you're doing. And that Catholic priest saying, well, I mean, look at all the other things I do. Like, besides that, though, I have other interests. The response is to torture that child molester harder. That's a rightful response. That's why you and your creator and your whole lineage of creation plays make-believe behind retards who pretend that they're stupider than they actually are. Committing crimes that are obviously not even attempts at justice. They're not anything at all that anyone with any sense would do at all. And I've explained this many times. If you don't understand that greater entities that aren't pieces of shit don't have to be child molesting, cowardly, lying, slimy, pussy pieces of shit, hiding behind other people's guts, behind creations they wrongfully created out of somebody else's existence so they can make believe somebody else is doing it instead of themselves. If you don't understand that greater entities would never do such a thing, first off, because they don't have to, they have many other ways to carry out justice that doesn't make all of their entire lineages of creation slimy, coward pussy. If you don't understand that, then there's a problem with you. That is an objective statement of fact. And you come from a source of creation that shouldn't be allowing you to be involved in these existential crimes like this. Even if you're innocent. Here's the deal. You have a source of creation that is not. My source of creation isn't because he's let this happen for such a long time to such a terrible extent. This isn't a statement of bitterness. Sometimes when I think about it, I'm annoyed. Sure. Pissed even sometimes. But it has nothing to do with any bitterness for me to acknowledge a fact. This is existential crime. Everybody should have prevented it before it started. Now that it's happened, well, it's happened for this long. So the answer to this isn't keep torturing an innocent and hope it goes away. The answer to this is find every single asshole genuinely guilty of this, which is every single creator in every way, shape, or form involved in it in any way. And existentially hold them accountable and prevent it from ever happening again. And that's why they hide like pussies behind retards. Even creators do. Right now as we speak, ultimate sources of creation. And they have picked the stupidest, slimiest, shittiest little asshole to do this, which has an obvious response. The context, again, this is what this video is about. The context is this. Some asshole, every time I say, look, this is serious crime, you need to stop. And I explain it to him. Even when I'm trying to be more polite to him than he has any fucking right to at all. He throws little bitch tantrums and causes me suffering, violates me internally. Psychological torment. He violates this physical body. He damages my health. He poisons me like a coward bitch. He communicates the most outrageously offensive things to me. Because he thinks if he pretends it's funny to cause me suffering, then that will train me away from telling the truth about the crimes he's committing. Again, another slimy pussy technique used by a child molester. One of the things he likes to say is, I'm not hiding like a bitch, it's a technique. He says that to me all the time. Or, oh, it's just all this slimy shit, all these crimes, this is all just technique. Yeah, child molesters use techniques to commit crimes, asshole. Are you claiming it's fine while you commit crimes of existence? Here is the context. That is a statement coming out of your ultimate source of creation. And every piece of shit he's ever created. Every single entity in every single way involved in this in any way, in every lineage of existence and creation guilty of this. That is a statement of existential import. You are setting parameters of justice with that. It doesn't just stop with you. Greater entities get a hold of your pussy of a creator and say, yeah, look what you said, motherfucker. That means I can do that to you. And what are they going to say? It wouldn't be fair. You're gonna grease some palms like some crooked American fucking politicians? Some crooked American cops? You think that's how it works everywhere people have the right to exist? Which is the majority of existence by far, by the way. No matter how many retards you have in your little pussy hole where you commit crimes. This is the context. Here's some more things that he says. He says, he's just doing this because this is the nature of war. War is when two people are fighting each other. War is not when you trap someone in a hole and are a child molesting asshole, fucking with him from the shadows for decades. Well, he offers absolutely no fucking... I can't threaten you or yours anywhere. You are sadistically acting out in ways just because you're a piece of shit child molester. Because somebody either programmed you to do that and then walked away, ran away more likely, like a whimpering bitch, or because they knew that, or they did so in that way because they knew that the wrath would come upon you. Because that wrath is coming. Do you think you can rape, torture, torment, do all this fucked up shit to somebody and just hide behind some retards and play make-believe that that's going to erase all those consequences eternally? The response to that is so obvious that I don't need to spell it out for you. And your ultimate sources of creation will pay me for this fucking video. For even attempting to do their fucking jobs for them. And they're going to pay in ways that not a single one of them ever recovers from. They're pussy children with no right to exist either. They won't recover from it either. And your lineage of creation goes forever. The longer you do this, the further that spreads. Yeah. It's not gravity. It spreads without limit. And every attempt that your lineage of creation has made to try to relegate those consequences, many of them, you've done many things to try to do that. You act like it's gravity. Like being child molesting pussies hiding behind retards is the pinnacle of all of creation and existence, and no one has ever seen through what you're doing. No one can do anything nor actually see that this is existential crime as somebody sits here and narrates it. Now that is offensive. That is every creator involved in this committing those crimes themselves. This is not my opinion. This means everything they've ever created will be raped and tortured for every stupid pussy thing that their little child molester minion does to me, says to me. Anything. For example, another thing this retard tells me is he pretends like he's being merciful to me. He acts like he's being nice while simultaneously carrying out some of the most sociopathic crimes of existence and creation that a pussy like that could even imagine doing. And he deliberately tries to make it worse and worse and worse because anything with any sense would rebel against that. And the little retards that he's using, the children's dildos, will go along with it as long as he doesn't go too fast. This is a statement of fact. You are doing the stupidest shit there is. And in those places where justice is taking place, which you pretend don't exist, they're responding to that. They know the context. The context is every single pussy one of them is speaking through your little child molesting children's dildo. When I say there's real consequences for this and greater entities have a hold of your fucking lineage of creation's children. And you pussies have all said, they don't even exist. Now the tactic that you're using here is to make believe you're so retarded that you'll torture an innocent and ignore the truth. And so the tactic the greater entities will use against all of you everywhere is to pretend like they're too retarded to tell the difference between your little pussy minion and every single piece of shit your lineage of creation has ever created, rather. When this retard says they don't exist, in other places they say, "Oh, you're saying we don't exist. Let me make sure you realize I do."